Picture this, right? You're standing on the edge of a massive active construction site.
Oh yeah, chaos.
Complete chaos. It's raining. There are diesel engines roaring everywhere. You've got these massive cranes swinging steel beams right over your head.
It's terrifying, honestly.
Right. And there are dozens of people just rushing around in the mud. Like everywhere you look, there is something that could potentially severely injure you.
Oh, without a doubt.
So imagine it is your job to walk into that mess and mathematically guarantee that everyone goes home safely at the end of the day.
Wow. Yeah, that's a monumental task.
Because you can't just point and yell, hey, be careful. You have to actually somehow measure the danger.
Right. Because when you or I navigate our daily lives, we just rely on intuition,
Yeah, exactly.
We're constantly making these tiny informal calculations about danger without even realizing we're doing it.
Yeah, like looking both ways before crossing a busy street, I guess. Or, I don't know, sniffing a questionable container of leftover takeout to decide if it's going to completely ruin our weekend.
Precisely. Yeah, the takeout test. But see, human intuition has a breaking point.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning when the environment becomes too complex or the stakes get too high, our gut feelings become notoriously unreliable.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, we either become paralyzed by fear, like seeing literally everything as a deadly threat,
Right.
or we become dangerously complacent and just totally tune out the real hazards.
Which is probably worse. Well, welcome to today's deep dive. I'm so glad you could join us today because we are completely stripping away that reliance on gut feelings.
We really are.
We are going to look at the exact framework that professionals use to systematically calculate, categorize, and neutralize danger.
It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. And more importantly, we're going to extract those tools so you can apply this incredibly structured thinking to the chaotic projects in your own life.
And to do that, we are drawing from some really foundational educational materials today.
Right. Developed by City and Guilds and Edicon.
Exactly. We're dissecting a specific course titled Unit 101, Introduction to Health and Safety in Construction.
Which sounds dry, but it is not.
No, it really isn't. And our primary focus is this specific lecture on risk assessments created by James Ricks.
So let's just start with the basics, because looking through these source materials, there is a very specific image that, to me, really sets the stage.
A clipboard.
Yes, it's a classic safety clipboard, and right on it are the 4 pillars of a risk assessment. Just 4 words.
Right. Hazards, likelihood, severity, and control measures.
Those 4 words.
I mean, those 4 words form the entire architectural foundation of occupational safety. But before we build the house, we really have to understand the materials.
Okay, lay it on me.
Well, the curriculum does something very intentional here. It treats the concept of a hazard and the concept of a risk as 2 completely distinct ideas. Yes, it actually dedicates entirely separate modules to each one.
Okay, but I have to stop you right there because I've always used those words completely interchangeably.
Oh, most people do.
Like if I see a patch of black ice on the sidewalk, I'd say, oh, that's a hazard, or I'd say, that's a risk. In normal conversation, they mean the exact same thing to me.
They do, in everyday speech, yeah. But in the world of professional safety, blending those terms together is a literal recipe for disaster.
Really?
Yeah, we had to separate them. So a hazard is just the raw potential for harm.
The raw potential.
Right. It is a fundamental property of a thing or a situation. So a frayed electrical wire, a deep trench, a vat of toxic chemicals.
Basically the bad stuff.
Yeah, those are hazards. They have the intrinsic ability to cause damage.
So the hazard just exists regardless of what anyone is actually doing about it.
Exactly. A risk, on the other hand, is a measurement.
A measurement of what?
Well, a risk assessment measures the reality of that harm actually occurring in a specific real-world context.
Okay, let me see if I can translate this into something a bit more culinary.
I love a food analogy. Go for it.
Let's say I have a profoundly spicy ghost pepper sitting on my kitchen counter.
Ouch. Okay.
The pepper itself is the hazard, right? It possesses the raw potential to cause intense pain.
That is a perfect working model, yes.
Okay, but the risk is all about the context. So if that ghost pepper is sealed inside a, let's say, triple-locked titanium vault.
A very secure pepper.
Exactly. The hazard still exists, right? It is still fundamentally a hot pepper. But the risk, to me, is functionally 0.
Right, because the context makes it basically impossible for you to interact with it.
Exactly.
But take that a step further, right?
hmm
What if the pepper is sitting on your cutting board and you are actively chopping it with a knife?
Oh, then the risk absolutely skyrockets because now I need to figure out the likelihood that I'm going to, I don't know, accidentally rub my eyes while chopping it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and the severity of the pain if I actually do that.
And that distinction is everything. I mean, think about a site manager. If they treat every single hazard on a construction site as an immediate maximum risk,
They never get anything done.
exactly, they would have to shut the entire site down permanently. Nothing would ever get built.
Right.
The goal isn't to eliminate all hazards. That's impossible. The goal is to identify the hazards and then accurately measure the risk they pose so you can manage them.
Which brings us perfectly to the next two pillars on that clipboard, likelihood and severity.
The real meat of the assessment.
Yeah. How do we actually measure the risk of that ghost pepper or that frayed wire?
Yeah.
Because if I'm standing in the mud on that site and I'm just using my subjective judgment,
Right. You might overreact.
exactly, I might be overly panicked while, a 20-year veteran worker next to me might be totally unfazed.
And this is exactly where we introduce the risk matrix.
Ah, the matrix.
It's designed specifically to strip away all that subjective human bias. The course materials provide this very rigid, simple 3x3 grid.
Okay, I want you listening to really visualize this grid right now because you could literally draw this on a napkin during your next big strategy meeting.
Really could.
It's a total game changer for decision making. So we have two axes, severity and likelihood. Let's break down severity first.
All right, so severity, represented by an S, is scored on a scale from 1 to 3.
Simple enough.
A score of 1 represents minor injuries or minor damage to property.
Okay, so like a scraped knee, a paper cut, or maybe dropping a hand tool and cracking a single floor tile.
Exactly. Moving up, a score of 2 signifies a medium injury or significant property damage.
So worse than a scrape.
Yeah, this is an event that might require actual medical attention, a trip to the clinic, or it could cause a noticeable delay in the construction schedule.
Got it. And obviously a 3 is the top of the scale.
A 3 is catastrophic, major injury, extensive structural damage, or a fatality.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it is the absolute worst-case scenario for the hazard you're looking at.
So that gives us our first number. Now we look at the other axis, likelihood, which is represented by an L.
Right.
This is just the probability that the event is actually going to happen, right? And it uses the exact same 1 to 3 scale.
That's right. So an L score of 1 means the event is unlikely or remote.
Probably won't happen.
A 2 means it is possible. Like, it could reasonably happen during normal operations.
Okay.
And a 3 means it is very likely or almost certain to occur if the work just continues as is.
Okay, so we have our severity score and we have our likelihood score. Now what?
Now, the magic happens with, honestly, the simplest math imaginable. Risk rating equals severity multiplied by likelihood.
Just simple multiplication?
Yeah. And this multiplication yields a specific set of outcomes that dictate exactly what the site manager must do next. It categorizes the danger.
Okay, let's walk through those categories based on the source text. If your math results in a 1 or a 2.
Then you are in the low risk category.
Okay. And the official directive here is that action should be taken to reduce the risk if reasonably practicable.
Right. Which basically means it's not a top priority, but if there's an easy, cheap fix, just go ahead and do it.
Makes sense. Now, if the score jumps to a 3 or a 4.
You enter medium risk. And the language really changes here.
How so?
This is considered a significant risk, and it mandates that appropriate control measures must be put in place before work proceeds.
So it's not optional anymore.
Not at all.
Okay, then we have the red zone, high risk, scores of 6 and 9.
Yes.
The directive is absolute here. The activity should not be undertaken without prior agreement. Like, it is a hard stop. Do not pass go.
Exactly. But I actually want to pause on those numbers for a moment, because you might notice a little quirk in the mathematical spread there.
Okay, wait a second. I'm looking at the list of possible outcomes right now. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Then it jumps to 6 and then 9.
Do you see it?
Yeah. Because it's purely a multiplication table of 1, 2, and 3, you can only get those specific products.
Yeah.
2 times 2 are 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9. There is literally no way to score a 5, a 7, or an 8.
And that missing space is actually brilliant by design.
Wait, really? How so?
Think about human nature, right? When we are forced to grade something on a scale of 1 to 10, what do we almost always do when we're unsure? Or when we just want to avoid conflict?
Oh, I see where you're going. We pick a 7.
We pick a 7.
It's so true. A 7 feels safe. It feels like we are, acknowledging an issue without sounding the alarm bells. We hedge our bets.
We totally hedge. But the 3 by 3 matrix eliminates the hedge. You literally cannot mathematically land in the middle.
Wow.
If you have a severe hazard of 3 and you think it is even just possible at 2, you are forced into a score of 6.
Which thrusts you immediately into the high-risk category.
Right. The math removes the psychological temptation to downplay danger.
That is so clever. But okay, I have to push back just a little here.
Sure, go ahead.
You say it removes subjective bias, but aren't the inputs themselves still entirely subjective? Like, what if I look at a rickety ladder and say the likelihood of falling is a 3, but the foreman looks at it and says, nah, that's just a 1, it's fine. The math is objective, sure, but the humans plugging in the numbers aren't.
That is a very fair critique. And it's actually the exact reason why these assessments aren't meant to be done in secret.
Oh, they're collaborative.
Yeah, the matrix forces a structured conversation instead of two workers just arguing over whether a ladder feels safe or unsafe, which is a totally useless emotional argument, by the way.
Right.
They have to argue over the inputs. The foreman have to justify why the likelihood is a 1. And if the ladder has, say, a missing rung, the objective reality of the hazard makes it very difficult for him to defend that 1.
Oh, I see. The framework doesn't cure human stubbornness, but it sort of traps it inside a logical grid.
Beautifully put, yes.
It turns panic, or in this case, stubbornness, into a process. I absolutely love that. Okay, let's see this process in action.
Let's do it.
The textbook provides an exercise, Activity 101.2.4, where students have to take this matrix and apply it to a series of visual scenarios.
And the scenarios in these materials are basically master classes in illustrating how a single environment can hold wildly different levels of risk.
Okay, let me set the scene for you listening. We are looking at an illustration of a partially built brick wall.
Right.
Right in front of it is a scaffolding structure. There are piles of scattered bricks everywhere, but the centerpiece of this whole chaotic image is a massive puddle of water on the ground.
Not great.
And running directly through the center of that puddle are thick, black electrical cables.
A textbook combination of electricity and water in a high-traffic area.
Oh, but it gets worse.
Of course it does.
The scaffolding is missing its guardrails. Yellow safety tarps are just flapping in the breeze. Tools are left out all over the walking platforms. And in a related image, there's a worker standing precariously near the edge of a high platform with absolutely no visible safety harness.
That is a nightmare for any site manager. Okay, so let's step into their shoes for a second. Yeah. We have the generic risk assessment form from the text right here in front of us. Let's run a calculation.
Okay, I'll take the puddle and the cables. So I walk onto the site. I see the hazard. Live electrical cables submerged in standing water.
Right.
I look at my severity axis. If a worker steps in that puddle, the result could easily be electrocution. That is a major injury. Or worse, a fatality. So my severity score is an undeniable 3.
Perfect. Now for the likelihood axis.
Well, the puddle is right at the base of the scaffolding, squarely in the main walkway where everyone has to, carry bricks. It is almost certain someone's going to step there. So likelihood is also a 3.
The math is simple.
3 times 3 is 9. I have a risk rating of 9. I am in the highest tier of high risk.
And your required action.
Stop work immediately. Nobody moves until the power is cut and those cables are elevated out of the water.
See? Notice how the framework functioned there? You didn't have to agonize over the decision.
Yeah, I didn't.
You didn't have to worry about the contractor getting angry about delays. The number just dictates the action.
It's incredibly clarifying. But obviously, not every hazard on a site is an immediate threat to life and limb like that puddle, right? How does the system handle the smaller stuff?
Well, to understand that, we can look at the actual completed example provided on the generic form in the course materials. It demonstrates the more mundane administrative side of safety.
Okay, let's see. The activity listed on the sample form is apply materials and fix tiles to surfaces.
Laying tile, a very standard everyday construction task.
And the hazard they identify for this task is chemical-based adhesives.
Right, the glue used to secure the tiles. Now look at the next column on the form. It asks for existing controls.
Oh, okay. It says PPE, personal protective equipment. So the assessment is acknowledging that the worker is already wearing gloves or safety glasses.
Exactly. And because that existing control is in place, it alters the math. They score the severity of the chemical adhesive as a 1.
Really?
Yeah, because it's a minor injury, perhaps a mild skin rash, if a tiny bit gets past the gloves.
Ah, I see. And the likelihood is scored as a 2. Because it's possible the worker might get some on them since they're working with it directly all day.
Right. So severity 1 multiplied by likelihood 2.
Gives us a risk rating of 2, low risk. But wait, Earlier, we established that even low risk requires action to reduce the risk if practicable. What action do they mandate for a two?
The form explicitly states the action needed. Implement sign-off sheet to ensure PPE is worn.
A sign-off sheet. That is entirely administrative. It's literally just paperwork.
It is paperwork, yeah, but it serves a critical function. Think about it. The entire calculation, the reason the severity was only a 1, was predicated on the worker actually wearing their gloves.
Right.
If they take the gloves off, the severity of chemical burn goes up, the math completely changes, and the risk rating spikes. The sign-off sheet is a control measure designed solely to protect the integrity of the math.
Oh, wow. That brings up a massive realization for me. We've been talking about this 3 by 3 matrix like it's some sort of magic wand,
Yeah.
but a piece of paper on a clipboard doesn't actually stop a brick from falling on your head.
No, it doesn't. And you've hit on the central theme of the broader curriculum here. Completing a risk assessment form isn't the finish line. It is merely the starting gun.
Oh, I like that.
The clipboard is just one component in this vast, interconnected ecosystem.
I really want to dive into that ecosystem because the sources list the other books and modules in this Unit 101 series, and honestly, it reads like an anatomy textbook for a living organization.
Well, that's an interesting way to put it.
Let's stick with that idea, actually. Let's look at a construction site like a human body, like an immune system.
Okay, I like that analogy. Let's map it out.
All right, so the risk assessment we just did, identifying the hazard, doing the math, that is the immune system's detection network. It's the white blood cells spotting an infection, but spotting the threat doesn't cure the disease.
Exactly. The detection network needs rules to operate by, right? It needs DNA.
Right.
And that is where the legal frameworks come in. The broader curriculum includes books 101.1.2, which covers the role of the Health and Safety Executive, or HSE,
Okay.
and 1.1.3 on main regulations.
So the HSE and the regulations dictate what hazards the immune system needs to be looking for in the first place,
Exactly.
and what the legal consequences are if the body fails to fight them off.
Furthermore, a complex body needs a nervous system to send warning signals, right? How do you communicate the unseen hazards to the workers?
You rely on safety signs.
Yes. The curriculum dedicates several sections to this, particularly focusing on COSH safety signs.
COSH, control of substances hazardous to health.
Think back to that tile adhesive. The hazard isn't always a dramatic electrical cable in a puddle. Sometimes the hazard is, like, invisible vapors from a chemical solvent that slowly damage your lungs over 10 years.
That's terrifying.
It is. So COSH regulations mandate specific, standardized warning symbols so that a worker immediately recognizes the threat, even if they can't see or smell it.
So that's the warning signals traveling through the nervous system. And finally, if the threat can't be eliminated entirely, the body needs physical armor, the skin.
Yes. That is Module 101.4.1, personal protective equipment.
The hard hats, the steel-toed boots, the respirators.
Exactly.
So if we look at the whole picture, your mathematical risk assessment is completely useless if the site manager doesn't understand the HSE regulations.
Right.
It's useless if the workers don't know how to read the COSH symbols on the chemical barrels. And it's utterly useless if nobody enforces the wearing of PPE.
If one single system fails, the entire organism is compromised. I mean, you can calculate a perfect risk rating of 2 for that tile adhesive.
Yeah.
But if the worker ignores the COSH sign and leaves their gloves in the truck, your math is fiction. The ecosystem requires every single piece to function in harmony.
Man, this completely changes how I view every construction site I walk past. It's not just guys with hammers. It is a massive, invisible web of mathematics, law, communication, and physical barriers all working together to hold back disaster.
And that invisible web is something you can weave into your own professional life, too.
Let's definitely talk about that. For you listening, think about how you can use this framework tomorrow. Let's say you are managing a major software rollout for your company.
Okay, good example.
You can use the exact same 4 pillars. First, identify the hazard, let's say a server crash during the launch window.
Okay.
Then you score it.
Right. Severity. If the servers crash, customers can't buy the product, and public relations takes a massive hit. That's a major injury to the business. So severity is a 3.
Makes sense. What is the likelihood?
Well, if the engineering team hasn't run any stress tests, the probability is pretty high. So likelihood is a 3.
3 times 3, you have a risk rating of 9. High risk. The action needed is clear. Stop the launch. You delay the rollout until you implement a control measure like, I don't know, buying backup server capacity.
Perfect. And then you rerun the math. You lower the likelihood to a 1, and suddenly your risk rating drops to a 3. You can proceed with caution.
It just provides immense clarity in situations where information overload normally causes panic.
It really does. It's a powerful tool.
It really is. But before we wrap up, I know you always find a hidden thread in these materials. Looking at all these regulations, the clipboards, the COSHH signs, the PPE, what is the final thought you want to leave us with?
Well, I want to leave the listener with a psychological paradox that actually really haunts safety professionals.
Ooh, I love a paradox. I'm intrigued.
We spend all our time building these massive integrated safety ecosystems, right? We introduce control measures like guardrails, warning sirens, and high visibility harnesses specifically to lower our risk ratings.
Right. We desperately want to take a terrifying 9 and engineer it down to a manageable 2. That is the whole point of the system.
It is. But there is a phenomenon called risk homeostasis.
Risk homeostasis.
Yes, it suggests that every human has an internal, baseline appetite for risk. If you make their environment incredibly safe, they will often subconsciously change their behavior to seek out more risk until they hit that baseline again.
Wait. Are you saying that making things safer actually makes people act more recklessly?
It is a profound unintended consequence, yeah. I mean, think about it. If a worker knows they're wearing a state-of-the-art safety harness, do they subconsciously stand an inch closer to the edge of the scaffolding than they would if they were entirely unprotected?
Oh my God.
Or in daily life?
Hmm.
If you were driving a car with advanced airbags and lane assist sensors, do you drive a little faster or, check your phone a little longer because you feel the system will save you?
Oh, wow. The system designed to keep us safe actually lulls us into a false sense of security. The math works perfectly, but the human brain sabotages it by leaning too hard into the safety net.
Exactly. It begs the question, as we surround ourselves with more and more complex safety measures, do we become fundamentally less attentive to the raw hazards sitting right in front of us?
Well, that is definitely going to keep me up at night. Are we actually safer, or do we just feel safer?
It's a fine line.
It really is. We started this deep dive talking about how we navigate the murky waters of daily life, making those casual calculations, looking both ways before we cross the street.
Right.
And today, we've given you the tools to structure those calculations. You have the 3x3 matrix. You know how to separate a raw hazard from an actual risk.
But as risk homeostasis shows us, the math is really only as good as your awareness.
Exactly. Even with the best equations and the strongest safety nets in the world, you still have to remember to actually look at the traffic.
Well said.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's deep dive. We'll see you next time.